A camera that's not great, but good enough. Smooth, snappy software. A battery that lasts all day long. Feels good in the hand. If you're tired of hearing those old chestnuts repeated and recycled ad nauseum in every phone review, present company included, welcome to the problem of standing out in the smartphone space of 2025. It's a problem London-based mobile maker Nothing decided to attack in a novel way. First, by making phones literally too bright to ignore with custom lights and thoughtful design. Then, by delivering that design to the entry-level segment with its CMF line. And now, by making its most expensive smartphone so polarizing that half its user base seems to hate it.
I don't think there's anything worse than being ordinary.
Did Nothing finally go too far? I'm MrMobile, and I've spent a week with the Nothing Phone 3. Disclosure, Nothing flew me to London for its summer launch event alongside a bunch of other overseas media, but I was not briefed in advance. So when the Phone 3 went official, I was just as shocked as anyone to discover that those leaks had been right. This was not just a departure from the norm, but a complete abandonment of symmetry and balance. Actually, the phone's pretty typical, from the charging port up to the first set of cameras, its transparent backplate divided beneath into a neat 3-column set of segments. But the top 10% looks like it was designed by someone else entirely. The 3x telephoto crammed up against the rear bezel, flatter than the other cameras. All 3 lenses visually overpowered by the unblinking orb of the new Glyph matrix. Now, glyphs have been a major part of Nothing's play from the start, leveraging the otherwise unused real estate of their phones' backplates to convey information. Up till now, they've taken the form of LED strips, flashing, filling, emptying, or strobing. But on Phone 3, all that's gone, replaced by this quarter-size monochrome disc of 489 LEDs called the Glyph Matrix. Or to be a little less nothing about it, it's a tiny screen, controlled by a tiny button, full of tiny toys. I gotta give Nothing credit here. It did execute this idea thoughtfully. It didn't just slap a smartwatch screen on the back of the phone, whether it makes any sense for it to be there. It built a platform that developers will be able to contribute to for bite-sized bits of information. And because it's an actual display now instead of just ribbons of lights, there's a lot more it can show you. The time, battery level, volume level, a bubble level, a stopwatch, solar clock, camera self-timer, and most importantly, to me, notifications. You can set custom rules by app or contact or keyword, so you can leave the phone face down and it'll stay silent and dark unless that special someone gets in touch. And when you do want to have fun, there's also the magic 8-ball, rock, paper, scissors, spin the bottle, and a few other things you'll probably never use again after the first unboxing. There are rough patches. The button takes some getting used to, and some modes are buggy on my pre-production review sample. The stopwatch, for example, is useless because it times out and forgets its own count, and the always-on mode isn't always on. But for me, the big letdown is in the size of this thing. In making it tiny enough to stuff into the corner, I feel like Nothing diminished its potential impact. A bigger Glyph matrix covering more of the phone would have offered many more possibilities. Possibilities of the type HTC explored with its dot view cases a decade ago. And it would have better preserved Nothing's visual identity. And if it had to be this small for some reason, why not augment it with the LED strips that Nothing is already known for? It's not like the company's going for a minimalist vibe here. Beyond the Matrix, I found the experience of using Phone 3 quite similar to that of the 3A Pro that I reviewed in the spring. Nothing OS is still one of my favorite interpretations of Android, with, in my opinion, a perfect balance of pragmatism and idiosyncratic panache. Beyond that, there's the same AI button accessing the same essential space, which remains underwhelming to me, but might grow into itself with future development. There's a new essential search option that might be compelling if it weren't so slow. Fortunately, you can shortcut into a Google search with its pop-up options. The screen is brighter, but not quite as bright as I'd like for the brutal summer season, and the battery uses the new silicon-carbon technology, but doesn't pack as big a capacity boost as I expected to come along with that. Oh, it's still an all-day phone, it's just not much more than that. Wireless charging is here, but no magnetic array for Qi 2, and though that makes nothing just like every other manufacturer avoiding this fun, useful technology for some reason, well, that's just the point, right? Nothing is supposed to be the company that thinks differently about stuff, and so much else about this phone is pretty common. That commonality encompasses the cameras as well. I used them to capture the latter half of my London adventure, making bad decisions with friends both at and after the Nothing event. I used it to document Independence Day feasts, festivities, flags, and fireworks, and I used it for product shots to feed the bottomless, insatiable Instagram machine. Oh, and while we're on a tangent, some of these shots featured the new Nothing headphones, which strike a far more consistent note than the phone. I don't have time to cover them properly right now, but I hope to find an opportunity to do so in the future because they're truly excellent and a needed breath of fresh air from stolid Bose and Sony designs. Anyway, the Phone 3 cameras are good. They're a significant improvement over what Nothing has offered so far, and while they continue to fail the fast-moving object test when it comes to frenetic felines and energetic explosions, well, so do most phone cameras. And the 3x telephoto even helps it keep up with higher-end competitors, up to a point. You may have noticed that I didn't opine about the processor. And that's because I never once noticed it, for better or worse. Nothing has caught a lot of flack from a spec-obsessed segment of its user base for choosing this particular sliver of silicon for its first flagship, and when I tried reading up to truly understand why anyone could possibly care, my eyes glazed over faster than Shatner could say,
"Get a life, will you keep it?"
Okay, everyone, relax. It's a joke. It was SNL. Look, to be fair, the point, I guess, is that for flagship prices, Nothing should include flagship everything. And sure, in markets with more competition, that's something you could spend all day yelling about on Reddit, if that's the kind of thing you're into. But here in the States, $800 will buy you an iPhone 16, or a Pixel 9, or a Galaxy S25. And while those may have more raw capability for the pragmatists out there, along with stronger glass, faster storage speeds in some respects, etc., Nothing has never held itself out as a brand for pragmatists. Personally, I'd rather pay for distinctive design than better clock speeds for mobile games I never touch. And to me, $800 makes sense for a phone that's bringing new ideas to a smartphone landscape that desperately needs them, even if I think it goes a bit too far in the pursuit of that distinctiveness.
Yeah, well, at least I'm not ugly.
Yes, you are.
I expect that Nothing will probably pull back from this overextension with its next device, that will someday look back on this design the same way we do some of the oddest phones of yesteryear. But that's what happens when you experiment and push the envelope. Sometimes it pushes back. And I'm glad that someone is still trying new things when it comes to phones built for Western markets. This review was produced following 7 days with 2 Phone 3 review samples provided by Nothing, which also provided travel and lodging for Mr. Mobile to attend the launch event in London. But if you think that makes me afraid to criticize a brand, just check out any of my live Samsung coverage from the past few years. As always, Nothing had no copy approval or editorial input into this video, nor even an early preview. Please subscribe to the Mr. Mobile on YouTube if you'd like to see more videos like this, and stay tuned for the return of foldables to the review desk, because speaking of Samsung, Unpacked is just around the corner. Until next time, from Michael Fisher, thanks for watching, and stay mobile, my friends.